Recording in progress.
The Pacifica School District acknowledges that we gather on the unceded ancestral homelands of Ramaytush Ohlone people. As guests, we humbly extend our gratitude to the Ramaytush Ohlone elders and community. We recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland, and we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples. As the original stewards of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone understand the interconnectedness of all living things and the importance of maintaining harmony with nature. Likewise, Pacifica School District commits to teaching our school community how to be responsible stewards of this land.
Well done.
So before we sit down, I'm just going to give a few highlights about our wonderful Ingrid B. Lacey Middle School. Because, well, this is the kind of kid we produce. So I'm going to start there because she's wonderful. And she and I practiced together yesterday. I was so excited to have her come join me tonight. But some of the things that our kids at IBL do is we work toward issues of social justice and the greater good of our environment. That's done through different areas, from our leadership team to our beautification projects that our PTO is spearheading by putting out some new planters. Also to our exploratory classes that are doing things like they're looking at the emissions that we put forth when we're doing pickup and drop off, and encouraging our parents to maybe let the car be turned off while they sit and wait on their student to get out of school. And that lowers emissions right there in our own community. So little things like that, they're coming up with these ideas and coming forward to do some wonderful things on our campus. In our advisory periods, we look at areas of character such as what is empathy and how to express empathy toward others. What is tolerance? Topics such as just general respect for one another, for where you work, where you play, and how we speak to one another. And also, finally, one of our own alumni came to us this past, at the beginning of the year. When I first got there, I've only been there since September, but she came to us asking if she could do a presentation to our full student body on cyber safety. And for one of our advisories, she created this amazing PowerPoint presentation that all the students got to watch, and in their classrooms, their teachers posted a website that she created that students can go to get help with cyber safety and security. So just wanted to highlight some of those things. And also our band got to march for the first time in 3 years in our Pacifica parade during Fog Fest. So thank you for having us this evening. Thank you, Mariana, for being with me. Okay.
Thank you, Mariana.
I feel much more confident.
Thanks for sharing the great things happening at IBL.
Thank you. All right. Barbara, would you take the roll call?
Yes, Trustee Burdall.
Here.
Trustee Burkini.
Here.
Trustee Doggett.
Here.
Trustee Patel.
Here.
Trustee Villalobos.
Here.
Thank you. The district records the audio portions of the meeting. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. In-person speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please complete a request card with your name, address, and the item number and submit it to the board president or superintendent. You will be called to address the board and you may speak for up to 3 minutes. Virtual speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board, your microphone will be unmuted, and you may speak for up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. All right, the board met in closed session regarding public employee performance evaluation, superintendent. No action was taken, and we plan to go back into closed session regarding the conference with labor negotiator, agency negotiator Heather Olson. So we will go back into closed session after this. All right, are there any questions regarding the minutes of October 12th, 2022? All right, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of October 12th, 2022? Which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so request, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following the approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the agenda or consent agenda? Maybe you want to go?
Can I ask to remove part C
Yes.
from the consent agenda?
So what we will do is we'll take that out, and then we'll take the vote on the consent agenda and discuss that one and vote separately. I also have something that we needed to add to the contract, as that was not available on Friday when we posted that, but we have a contract for the repair of a gas leak at Ocean Shore School, and so it's both urgent and timely. And so we would like to add that to the consent agenda. There is, posted on the agenda is the board memo with the background in terms of why we need that. So, so you actually have to vote to add that to the agenda.
Are there any questions regarding this addition to the contract to the agenda? Okay, do I have a motion to add this to the agenda?
I'll motion to add.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes 5-0.
And then are there any questions regarding the agenda or consent agenda as amended? All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda as amended?
I'll motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Perfect. So the next item that we need to do is we pulled out specifically the consideration of the acceptance warrant, so paying for the Apple MacBooks.
Are we going to put that?
So that goes,
I know it goes in the district business, but do we want to put it? Oh, we're going to.
we just do it right now.
We're going to do it right
Yes.
now. Okay.
Yes,
So-
make a motion.
All right. So.
And the reason that we're specifically doing this is that we have trustees that would not take a vote on that, and so we want to give them the opportunity to not vote. So,
All right.
are there any questions about it? We're essentially paying for the MacBooks that we are now getting into for the teachers of Sunset Ridge and Ocean Shore.
I'll make a motion to approve the consideration of acceptance warrants for the Apple MacBooks.
I'll second.
Okay. And Barbara, can you take the vote? please?
Sure, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 3-0. Thank you.
Are we saying that we're recused and not voting no?
Yeah.
We're not allowed to vote.
Oh,
We
let's
have
just
to
make it
recuse
no.
ourselves. It's not a no vote.
Oh, it's a recusal.
It's a recusal.
Yeah.
For potential conflicts of interest.
No conflicts of interest. Okay. That's the.
Thank you. That went as well
It
as
doesn't look like a no vote.
Right.
Not the case.
All right. So are we moving to communications or that was it, right?
That was it on that one.
On that one. All right. All right, so we're going into communications. All right, speakers wishing to address the board on agenda items and non-agenda items, please submit your first and last names and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak for up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. First up, we have LSEA.
There she is. Hi, Megan.
Evening. The 2022-2023 school year is nearly 30% done. In these almost 60 days of instruction, our staff members have had a year's worth of challenges smushed into this short time frame. From the overwhelming task of unpacking boxes to a Halloween on a Monday, followed by a rainy day recess on Tuesday, we've cleared lots of hurdles. As usual, those of us with the direct contact with the most important part of our school district, the students, continue to handle these challenges head on. We are continually looking and seeking for backup and support from our site and district administration. A simple request for those of you who are the admins of our school district: respond to emails. They may not seem important to you, but if a staff member is writing an email, it's an issue that is important to them. They put the time into reaching out. Please respond. You might not think the WASPs, dirty floors, technology challenges, or subs being pulled for something else are not big deals, but they are. More challenges to an already difficult job. Aren't you here to support us? Don't we want those that have direct contact with students to have all the tools and information at their fingertips? If you don't have an answer for us, at least acknowledge receipt of the email with a reply back that you'll follow up. One of the most tedious things of my position is having to help members because an admin didn't respond to an email. Did you get an email from a teacher asking to meet with you? Please respond. Did you get an email about unattainable F&P assessment due dates? Please respond. Did you get an email about a situation with a parent a teacher needs advice on? Please respond. We know you're bombarded by emails, but we need your help. Please respond. The shortage is real, and we know we could get a job anywhere. Our students and direct colleagues are a large piece of why we stay. Please be an administration that supports us and is another reason we are all here next year. Tonight, we are celebrating over 41 employees who have reached milestones in their years of service to our school district, ranging from 5 years to 35 years. Let's ensure they are all here for their next milestone, pending retirement, by continuing to support them, value them, and appreciate them as professionals, just as the decades of past administrators did. Be the reason we stay, not the reason we leave. And remember, reply to their emails.
Thank you. CSCA.
Hello, my name is Nicole Sayers and I am the president of CSEA. Tonight, I'd like to acknowledge the Pacifica School District CSEA Service Pin recipients. Carolyn Nizak, COVID-19 Health Assistant, 5 years at Cabrillo School. Amy Falk, Child Nutrition Cook, 5 years at Cabrillo School. Susie Santiago, Human Resources Specialist, 5 years at the district office. Bob Becker, Lead Custodian, 10 years, the district office and throughout the district. Michaela David, Child Nutrition Cook, 10 years, Ocean Shore School. Antonio Robles, Custodian 2, 10 years, Cabrillo School District, Cabrillo School. Mimi Agabiade, Behaviorist, 10 years at Ortega. Tiffany Hanna, School Secretary, 10 years at Ortega. Jared Larson, Custodian 1, 10 years at Sunset Ridge. Catherine Heon, School Assistant, 15 years at Cabrillo. Gail Barrett, Paraprofessional 101, 15 years at Ortega. Julie Gallagher, Child Nutrition Cook, 15 years at Cabrillo. Lucia Sweet, Paraprofessional Resource Specialist Program, 15 years at Ocean Shore School. Mary Grigi, School Secretary, 25 years at Cabrillo. Maria Ocampo, Custodian 2, 25 years at Sunset Ridge. The above and beyond awards from the CSEA for October go to Marissa Schaff and Joanne Fox. Marissa Schaff, Cabrillo behaviorist in an SDC class. Marissa is a hard-working employee who shows up every day and works with students who live with challenging behaviors. She is respected and relied on. Her students get through their days more successfully because she is there. Joanne Fox works as a paraprofessional at Cabrillo in the RSP room. Jo will always see kids even if she has to work without a teacher for periods of time. She works with her students so completely that some of them think she is their RSP teacher. We also have 24 new members who have become permanent employees. I'm not going to read everybody's name, okay? But I will say there are 5 at the DO, 3 at IBL, 1 at LMEC, 3 at Ocean Shore, 2 at Ortega, 7 at Sunset Ridge, and 3 at Valimar. And we look forward to the day that they earn their 5-year pin. We also, have 2 newly hired CSEA members, Sarah Lottie and Deborah Augustine, and they are both classified substitutes. I'd also like to take one moment to thank the district for sending our paras, behaviors, and school assistant to an inclusion workshop by Sam Dresden. The first one was October 7th, and it was super good. The second one was today at IBL. We're having another one in January and another one in March. They're just really fantastic, and he's a wonderful, wonderful speaker. Also, I was able to attend a 40-hour training with my supervisor, Kathleen Kennedy, on a new nonviolent crisis intervention program called PROACT. We both enjoyed it, and we are both now trainers for this program. So we will go around and train other people in the district. We're setting up one training for January and one training for February, and all the trainings just focus on a set of principles that help to calm difficult situations. And we're really excited to start this training and feel it's a great direction that our district is moving forward with. Finally, I'd like to speak for both CSA and LSEA and thank Trustee Laverne Villalobos for actually advocating for us to have this time to speak directly to the board without the time limit restrictions. So we thank you for that. And as always, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. People wishing to address the board.
Okay, Natalie, this is your big moment. Natalie Bickell. I'm going to talk about TK at Valimar.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Natalie Bickell. I've been a resident here in Pacifica for 7 years now. My husband grew up here, and we appreciate the community that you guys offer and the school district that you offer our children. My daughter attends Valimar School, and many of the families there have discussed that there are only 2 TK schools offered in our community. They're on opposite sides of the town, and oftentimes that can create a burden to numerous families. We would like to see a 3rd TK offered at a K-8 school such as Valimar that is located in the center of town. This would offer more flexibilities to families. As you discuss adding a TK to our school like Valimar, families would appreciate if you include the aftercare program in this discussion. This way families have options so that way they can fit their work schedule and their childcare into their daily lives. Adding a TK to our schools would offer more flexibility to our community, our families, and more opportunities to our children to grow up together in a K-8 school. We really appreciate your time, and thank you for considering this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
No, Mr. Kell is here to discuss field, so.
Okay. All right, correspondence.
I'm sorry, we do have.
Oh, there's one more? Oh, and online?
It's Tara Knox.
Oh, okay.
Hi. Hi. Shaka. Thanks for letting me speak. It's been a while since I've been at a board meeting. I'll just go through this real fast. These are pretty general comments that I just wanted to voice, similar to some other comments from last meeting. But I first want to say thank you very much to the Pacifica School District as a whole and the Ocean Shore site particularly for always helping in every way they can to help my family and the families of others. But I also, and as happy as I am in some ways, I'm feeling sad sometimes when I I think I'm starting to see some kids and parents and teachers and admins and staff really start to suffer. And it feels like we're on this long trail. It's not the hardest trail in the world, but it's a long trail, and our infusions as applies as we walk down this trail don't seem to be being replaced to quite the same level as they used to be. And I think the trail is starting to feel harder and harder as we go. And I know a lot of that comes down to state funding, LCFF, living in a high cost of living area in a town that doesn't have a lot of other supports. We don't have families with thousands of dollars to spend on the foundations. We don't have businesses like other areas do. But I wonder if we're being loud enough about that. Are we talking to Sacramento? Or are we talking to the county? Are we talking to our own people in Pacifica about how I feel like we used to be this district that was proud to do a lot with a little, and now we're starting to become this district that just plain has little. And that worries me. I see principals suffering because they don't have vice principals to support them. They can't take time to see the person in the corner that is quietly suffering. They can't even take time to help the person that's yelling. I see where our school sites don't have regular homework support. That is concerning to me. It should be across all schools. I see kids having conflicts that continue year after year. And some families are leaving the school that they loved or even the district that they loved because it doesn't seem to have an end to help those kids. And I'm wondering if the kids are not getting the supports they need so that conflicts continue. The grounds sometimes have had problems, and I think that's starting to directly affect kids, whether that's their playground being broken or their lunches are cold because we have a recent problem that was probably unpredicted, but no heat means cold lunches and not much lunch at all. We have some broken structures, et cetera, yards that have caused ankles to be hurt. I just wanted to say, I feel like we're heading to a little bit of a crisis, and I hope we can stop that crisis before it gets to a point of no return. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect timing.
Is that everyone?
I believe that's everyone.
Correspondence?
I do not have any correspondence.
All right, board communications.
I can start. So mainly in the last couple of weeks since the last meeting, I've been helping at IBL with the band, trying to get that organized, and kind of after helping them with their uniforms for Fog Fest, just trying to get that organized so a parent can then hopefully take that over afterwards. Meetings with Dr. Olson, workforce housing meetings, various ones we're working on the environmental impact. I went to an all-day seminar last week with San Mateo County, working towards functional homeless for the whole county by the end of next year. That was a summit with pretty much everybody in the county, and it was, they're really taking this on, and there's a good chance they're going to be able to do it. The Cabrillo Carnival on Saturday was a lot of fun, and they went to Ortega's Halloween Parade, and then this morning the special ed coffee social at Solbright, which there were probably about 10 parents there. So it's very, very well attended. And John also attended this morning, so he was there to answer all the questions. So it's been a busy week.
Not too much to share on my end. I went to the Sunset Ridge Boo Fest, which was very fun, and it was great to see all the families. It seems I have nothing to compare it to, but it was very well attended from my point of view, and there was a lot of great energy, and it was great to see all the kiddos in their outfits. On a less happy note, I think I just wanted to share, I went to a briefing from the California Schools, CSBA, so what does that stand for? California School Boards Association. And they were reviewing scores that came out from a national assessment, I guess a couple weeks ago, it's called NAEP, and it's a nationwide assessment done for 4th and 8th graders around the country. And this year, for the first year, every single state saw massive declines in math education, and California in particular suffered a great deal. And there's additional data that came out that highlights district by district the learning loss that happened in math in particular, reading and math, but I'm going to highlight math in particular. And I just wanted to highlight it because I think, one, this is something that every district is facing, but our scores show that we are facing it acutely as well. And so I just want to kind of put a call out to teachers, to parents, and everyone to kind of think about this and what we can do as a community to support our students regain the learning loss that they suffered over the pandemic. That's all.
I agree with you, Edie. I've been busy, but I just wanted to, November is American Indian Heritage Month, and through my other job, I found that Joseph Bruchac, who's a American Indian author, Angeline Bowley, and Cynthia Lytek Smith, they are going to have a Zoom session on November 14th and 15th and 16th. And I can send the flyer to superintendent. And these are books that I actually read to the kids when I'm in the classroom. One of them is about a jingle dress dancer and what it means to be out in the circle dancing. And Joseph Bruchac has been around for a long time, and he just has a whole array of books. And my favorite one is called Buffalo Song, and it's based on one buffalo who was, I want to say nurtured, but that line of that one buffalo still exists today, even though most of the buffalo were diminished in the late 1800s. And so I just think it's a really nice thing that the kids can zoom in on. It's during class time though, and that's through San Mateo County Reads.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And so as librarians, they're recommending that we read their books to the classes that come and visit. Also, I just met with the superintendent to get updated on everything this month, and I received 3 emails from parents about concerns in the community.
All right. I also attended the Boo Fest at Sunset Ridge. It was a lot of fun, and it did seem like it was kind of back to normal. It was great. Great to see a lot of people out. Continued with workforce housing meetings. We had one today. We're getting really close to the final design, and hopefully there'll be more. We're hearing more from the city also soon. I had my monthly meeting with Dr. Olson. We had a follow-up call regarding the org chart this week. And also I've gotten communications from parents, particularly around the Ocean Shore gas leak and concerns about making sure that the flooding that has happened in the past has been alleviated. So that's it for me.
So I used to have a Sunset Ridge student, and now she's in high school, and she had multiple
Performances over the weekend, so I didn't get to go to Boo Fest. And I'm sad about it because I actually enjoyed it. But I was able to meet with Heather, and I did receive the same emails regarding what's going on at, why am I drawing a blank? Ocean Shore. I almost said Oceana. I'm completely in high school land. But yeah, that's all I have to report.
I am getting ready to send out a district office newsletter, and I had the San Mateo County Reads, and I think that goes to staff members probably either Thursday or Friday. That's a great access. In our parented staff newsletter, we always try to put some parent education, and the county's having great virtual parent education. So whenever we can promote that, thank you. Please forward that to me. I have been busy doing goal-setting meetings with the cabinet and the principals. I had my last meeting yesterday, and then last week I got to go to the Pacifica housing element. They had 2 in-person meetings, and then consultants that are working with the city around Pacifica housing element met with myself, Yolanda Pranza, and Nicole Ortega to figure out how they could reach a different demographic than the people that go to the in-person meeting, and recognizing that that we have a tight connection to some of our families that have housing needs. They tried to get some input from us.
All right. The district values the goals provided in our local control accountability plan, LCAP, and strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details of each of those district goals can be accessed on our district website at www.pacificasd.org. All right, first up is service awards, and this is LCAP Goal 1. Dr. Torres.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. Tonight we celebrate our Service Award recipients 2022. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees recognize our 2022 Pacifica School District Service Award recipients for their years of service to our Pacifica School District community. Service awards are given out to employees of every classification, classified, certificated management, every 5 school years of service to our community. Each of our recipients will receive a service award pin commemorating their years of service. This school year, we recognize 41 of our employees who individually have served from 5 to 35 school years of service and collectively have served Pacifica School District a grand total of 610 school years. Congratulations, Pacifica School District Service Award recipients, and thank you for all your years of service to the Pacifica School District. Below are the names of each service recipient along with their years of service and current work site. Join me in recognizing their service to our community, and we were hoping we could do a round robin of reading the names. If Dr. Olson, if you could kick us off.
Sure. So I'm going to start with Cabrillo School, and can I just read all of them in that? Carolyn Nizik, COVID Health Assistant, 5 years. Amy Falk, Child Nutrition Cook, 5 years. Antonio Robles, Custodian 2, 10 years. Catherine Hean, School Assistant, 15 years. Jared Katz, 3rd grade teacher, 15 years. Megan Ellsburn, 7th, 8th grade teacher, 20 years. Michelle Wagner-Keeney, 3rd grade teacher, 20 years. Mary Grigi, school secretary, 25 years. Christine Donnelly, 1st grade teacher, 25 years. And Don Potter, 7th, 8th grade, 25 years.
I will do district office and Ingrid Lacey.
Okay.
Susie Santiago, Human Resources Specialist, 5 years. Bob Becker, Lead Custodian, 10 years. Tom Stafford, Administrator of Special Projects, 20 years. Ingrid B. Lacey School, Margaret Toomey, 6th grade teacher, 5 years. Joan Whiteman, 7th, 8th grade teacher, 5 years. Benjamin Gower, band teacher, 5 years. Jean Lakata, 7th, 8th grade teacher, 15 years. Janice Miller, 6th grade teacher, 15 years. Cole Westbrook, 7th grade teacher, 15 years.
All right, Linda Mar Educational Center, Michelle Brazil, a homeschool teacher for 35 years. And then at Ocean Shore School, we've got Michaela David, child nutrition cook, 10 years. Lucilla Sweet, paraprofessional, resource specialist program, 15 years. Jonathan Harris, 4th and 5th grade teacher, 20 years. And Jennifer Mitchell, kindergarten teacher, 25 years.
Ortega School, Stephanie Simmons, special day class teacher, 5 years. Mimi Agunbiadi, behaviors, 10 years. Tiffany Hanna, school secretary, 10 years. Scott Newbold, custodian 2, 10 years. Robin Foster, kindergarten teacher, 15 years. Gail Barrett, paraprofessional, 15 years. Julie Gallagher, child nutrition cook, 15 years. Karen Stevenson, 5th grade teacher, 15 years. Michelle Kale, 1st grade teacher, 35 years.
Sunset Ridge School, Donna Liu, 2nd grade teacher, 5 years. Jared Larson, custodian, 10 years. Laura Viskovic, response to instruction and intervention teacher, 20 years. And Maria Ocampo, custodian, 25 years.
Palomar School, Amy Huffman, second grade teacher, 5 years. Kelly Edelhart, fourth grade teacher, 15 years. Rebecca Moore, kindergarten, first grade teacher, 15 years. And Martha Sanosian, kindergarten teacher, 20 years.
Thank you.
Give a round of applause.
So it may not seem like we have a lot of people here, but there are a number of people watching virtually that were a part of that. So, Carla, do you want to talk about what's going to happen tomorrow?
Sure. Today, with help, we set up tables in each staff lounge with flowers, posters with the names of the service recipients, and tomorrow morning they will get delicious coffee cakes, and then Susie and I will be delivering the service pins to the recipients.
Susie, a service recipient herself. Congratulations to all the service pin awards.
Great. Celebration and recognition of newly permanent certified and classified staff, and this is LCAP Goal 1. Dr. Torres, this is you again.
Board of Trustees, tonight we congratulate the certificated and classified staff listed below who have moved to permanent status in the Pacifica School District. For certificated staff, the standard is a 3-year process, starting as a temporary or probationary teacher, dependent on the staffing needs of the district for the year of hiring, with the first day of the third year being a fully certificated employee becomes permanent. For classified staff, the standard is a 6-month probationary period. Join me in congratulating the following employees. For certificated, Catherine Farwell at Cabrillo, Scott Forbes at Ingrid B. Lacey, Queenie Nang in Ortega, Mabel Ryan at Sunset Ridge, Caroline Tam at Sunset Ridge, Jenna Barash at Valamar, Angela Diaz at Valamar, and Jennifer Jung at Valamar. And those are our certificated employees that have become permanent. For classified, Yolanda Pranza at the district office, Dalton McIntyre at the district office, James Fernandez at the district office, Alec Garavito at the district office, Stanley Kuzniak at the district office, Zia Feng at Ingrid B. Lacey, Debbie Melville at Ingrid B. Lacey, Eric Weideman at Ingrid B. Lacey, Sadie Olson at LMEC, Tristan McNall at Ocean Shore, Jennifer Newman at Ocean Shore, Eugenie Hoffman at Ocean Shore, Jennifer Gadwa at Ortega, Nicole Rubalcaba at Ortega, Alicia Barraza at Sunset Ridge, Geraldine Dayao at Sunset Ridge, Sharon Pointer at Sunset Ridge, Linda Sanderson at Sunset Ridge, Jennifer Arciniega at Sunset Ridge, Amber Andrusik at Sunset Ridge, Rolando Rames at Sunset Ridge, Robin Hopkins at Valamar, Christopher Snyder at Valamar, and Margette Demarais at Valamar.
And then we have a human resources update, goal LCAP 1, and this is you again, Dr. Torres.
So tonight we have an update of HR, and we'd like to give this update as previously requested by Trustee Laverne Villalobos. There are different ways to fill an open position in our school district. It can be through rehires, transfers, promotions, and via selection process. Since the end of last school year, the Human Resources Department has processed 13 internal rehires, transfers, and promotions, and actually it's 14. Let me look at it.
It says 14.
14, okay, good. And so I put this presentation together. Anything in red means there's been changes since the memo. So in HR, changes are happening on a day-to-day basis. So if you see something red, it's changed from the time we wrote the memo for this board meeting to now. So there's been 14 internal rehires, transfers, and promotions, and 40 newly hired Pacifica School District employees via the selection process. So these are new people coming from outside of Pacifica School District into our community. Our current openings by school site, as you'll see, crossed out is the paraprofessional 1-to-1. That was an internal transfer. And also the RSP teacher, we hired a contracted employee to fill that. But at Cabrillo School, we still have 3 positions that are available. At Ingrid B. Lacey, we have 2 positions that are available, a paraprofessional and certificate of roving sub. But we did just recently hired a 7th, 8th grade math teacher as a Pacifica School District employee. At Ocean Shore School, recently, the COVID-19 health assistant position came available with the starting date of November 28th. And we also have posted a paraprofessional playworks for 4 hours. At Ortega School, recently it came available, custodian 2, it's a day custodian position. And we continue to have a certificate of roving substitute teacher position at Ortega School. At Valamar recently, a custodian 1, which is an evening custodian, became available. And we also have a paraprofessional playworks position, but we've had a couple interviews, so I think we're going to be hiring very soon. Other current openings that we have is recently a van driver for 2.5 hours a day. It's a split shift. And then we still are interviewing and still looking for a groundskeeper. We hired 1 groundskeeper, and he's doing a great job, and so we're looking for 1 more. The long-term substitute for an RSP teacher position. We are still looking for a lead mental health counselor position, but we had 2 interviews this week. So fingers crossed that we're very close to hiring someone. And we continue to hire classified sub-positions and certificated sub-positions. And so that's just ongoing. So we always have that up. And our substitutes are doing such a great job, but we always need more. And then something also that we've done now is we have pools for hard to fill positions. And so this was a conversation that we had with the special education department that even though positions are filled, let's say with contracted employees, we still want to have pools open so that we can continue to look for Pacifica School District possible candidates. And so these are the pools that we have: resource specialist teacher pool, special day class teacher pool, speech and language pathologist pool, school psychologist pool, and even for classified positions, we realize they're hard to fill positions as well, as special education paraprofessionals and behaviorists. So we actually have a couple contracted employees filling those positions. So it's really important to list these pools. That's it. And then something I want to talk about is just really quickly, recently, last Friday, we met with San Francisco State District partners. And it was great. It was 10 school districts, including ours, and we were able to meet all the departments regarding credentialing, including the special education department. And so then I followed up, and now we have a meeting with the special education department to talk about setting up a pipeline, so a partnership with the special ed department, creating a pipeline between their university and our school. And we're also, at this time, collaborating with LSCA over an MOU where we can support our own employees with tuition funding, you would say. So we're working on that as well. And then we are continuously recruiting and really trying to leverage the salary increases that we gave. So we settled at the end of the school year. So this year we have a great opportunity to recruit and really share about the special education annual $5,000 stipend, the $5,000 increase per cell on the certificated salary, our excellent health and retirement benefits, and not sure if a lot of people know, but we honor all years of teaching service, whereas other school districts will limit it to like 5 years or 10 years, and now we honor all years of service. And for classified, also leveraging the recent 7% salary increase and excellent health and retirement benefits. And that's my update.
Thank you. All right, field review, goal LCAP 1, and Mr. Machado or Machado? Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
George Machado.
Machado, thank you.
George, do you have what you need in terms of the presentation?
I believe so.
Okay, perfect.
And do we have a public comment on this?
Oh, is there a public comment? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. So we'll give the presentation and then we'll do public comment.
Well, of course, I haven't tacked on Just tell me, George, when you want me to change.
Of course. So I'd like to thank the board for letting me come up and speak about the fields and the conditions of the fields for Pacifica School District. And so we'll move on. Let's go to the first slide. So we're going to talk about ground staffing, current conditions of fields, routine maintenance of grounds, summary of costs, plan moving forward, and of course, questions and answers at the end. Next slide, please. So facilities, ground staffing. Both, obviously, everybody here, I hope everybody here has heard so far that we've lost a couple of employees in April. Sad to hear that, but for personal reasons, they chose to leave. The positions were posted on EdJoin. And we do have, as Dr. Torres has mentioned, we do have candidates that we've interviewed and hopefully getting more to get a qualified person to come on board. I'd like to say that the new young man we have on staff, Aaron Truly, he's a real go-getter. He's really getting out there. I've gotten a lot of feedback from the sites and people seeing him out there, and all they basically see is his backside and his elbows. So he's really working hard. The cost of 2 employees, vehicles, equipment, and supplies around $200,000. And of course, that cost will continue to go up, because of the cost of equipment and of course, employees. One employee was hired in September, actively recruiting for a second. Next slide, please. So this is a summary of our conditions of our fields at this point. Sunset Ridge, poor to moderate. We need some irrigation work around the edge of the field. Track repair, it needs some work due to erosion from weather and water runoff. So that we're looking to do track repairs through the bond, but we are looking to get those areas that are eroded and damaged corrected so the track can be used by students on a regular basis. Ocean Shore, moderate. We just redid a grubbing and hydro seeding of the field last year, I believe, and we got it up and running. We had some issues with irrigation. Unfortunately, losing groundskeepers, we were unable to get the proper treatment for weeding and abatement of the weeds. So we've had some weeds, a little bit of weed and seeding out there. We'll kill the weeds and bring the grass back to a better luster, but it's looking pretty good. I don't know if anybody's driven by. It's a nice green field out there now. IBL, poor to moderate. We have a program working with the schools and the community. It's in progress now. We started the renovation phase 1 of about 3/4 of the field. It's all fenced off out there. They're going to do it starting, I think, next week or the week after. They're going to start preparing the field to do the seeding out there to get the grass growing. Unfortunately, it's going to take time because of the time of the year. We don't have the weather that we'd like to have for germination. So about July, I want to say beginning to the middle of January, we'll probably open that section up and then go right into phase 2, which is a smaller section of the field, to repeat the same process. So when it's all said and done, IBL field should be green and growing, and the kids using the fields. The track was done about a year ago this time. We had it grubbed and the borders of the track designated. It's actually looking pretty good. There has been some work done over by the front of over by the baseball field, where they ended up having to disrupt the material there due to putting in new fencing, but that was corrected by the contractor. Valimar, moderate, still needs some work, needs maintenance and some irrigation work, but it's currently closed due to the temporary campus is being moved on for the work in D-Wing. Cabrillo, moderate, it's taken care of by community, it's a community and school. Pacifica Girls Softball League has taken care of that field and is ongoing now, working on the field, keeping it groomed, gopher abatement, watering, and moving forward. Ortega, Port and moderate, it's used by school and community. The turf field bond project starts in June. Currently, we need some irrigation work. We have a broken line up there. We're getting some quotes on that. And then we have Ortega, or I just spoke about Ortega. Odstad, poor condition. We have some broken lines or some leaks up there at one of the valves. It's been shut down. And again, getting the support that we need with only having one groundskeeper to get up there and work on it. It needs irrigation work. And of course, workforce housing coming up will help to improve it and keep it up to a playable field. Next slide, please. Routine maintenance of grounds. Ground staff, weed control, trimming and pruning of general cleanup, watering 3 days a week, gopher abatement every 2 weeks, tick abatement April and September, weekly mowing, currently contracted, irrigation repairs as needed. Next slide, please. So this portion of the presentation is basically a summary of the cost of all these items I spoke of, and the bottom line is we're looking at about $500,000 annually right now, and those costs, of course, are expected to rise with just attrition and cost for paying employees and equipment. Next slide, please. So the plan is to maintain mowing, repair irrigation at Sunset Ridge, Ortega, and Odstad. Continue with contracted mowing while we have one groundskeeper. Discontinue when we have two groundskeepers and fields are moderate condition. Next slide, please. Plans moving forward. Continue recruiting efforts, contract services until staff can be hired, allocate funds for field upgrades and repairs, start with $200,000 per year for 2023. Irrigation repairs. When our fields are in a usable condition, we'd like to raise the fees to an hourly rate. We charge the least out of every school district that we associate with in San Mateo County, and we work with 22 other districts with Smith-Sig, and that information is out there, and they're having a hard time keeping their fields up. And so when we charge what we're charging now, you can see how difficult it is to be able to keep fields up and running in great condition, let alone in good condition. That's it for my presentation. Next slide. If there are any questions or any ideas or directions that you want from me, please ask away. I'll write them down and move forward.
Do you have questions before we do public comment? Okay, Mr. Kell, you want to do public comment? Thank you, George.
Thank you.
All right, I'm Joe Cal, President, Pacifica Girls Softball League. Excited to give you a few updates as it relates to the league and the fields. First, as a league, we're in the final week of fall ball. We have playoffs next weekend. 7 teams, 26 coaches, 100 players in fall is the biggest fall we've ever had. Each team competes both in town and down the peninsula. and our community is energized and engaged. Spring 2023 registration's open. We're already at 60 players, and we're probably going to be close to 200 players for the season, which is, again, probably our biggest ever. So now onto the fields. Cabrillo, a couple things. We had the container reconfiguration project. We were going to try to add a new container and move them in the existing space so we could open up a 60 by 30 open spot that we could use for batting practice and things like that. Walked the field with George and the site principal, and an interesting issue came up. The issue was the fact that the dirt from the retaining wall that's going to be built for the new gym is going to be spread around the field. So there was some hesitation to allowing the implementation of this project because who knows where the dirt's going to go. So from a league perspective, we're perfectly fine installing it and removing it, even if it's used for one season. This is something that really holds back our players from being able to hit the ball when you compare it to the Peninsula League. And we have no opportunity to have any cage time or batting practice because the cages are full. They're all they're all full of baseball. And I think every other league on the peninsula, baseball, softball, has a spot for hitting, and we just don't. So this might be a done deal. If it is, great. We're not going to push any further, but if it's something that we could facilitate as a temporary thing, I would be grateful. All the softball families would be tremendously grateful too. What do I got here? Cool. One point on a similar topic is the reason the dirt is going to be relocated to the field is because it saves a lot of money on the project. And it's great that we're saving money, but I generally think that y'all should consider using that money for the field. If the field takes the dirt on, that money should be used to improve ADA access, build a track, replace the parkour, help fix the grass. We're taking it on, but it's something that could use a lot more money as well, so something to consider. Sprinkler update, we just purchased $5,000 worth of all new sprinklers and nozzles to get adequate coverage on the field. We've probably installed 25% of them, and we're seeing really good results. We're going to kind of use our discretion to maybe remove a head here, move one slightly there so we can get the right coverage, so we can get this grass looking nice for both the students at Cabrillo and the softball players. Two problems, the water pressure is still not high enough. It's at about 40 PSI, which in theory is high enough, but it doesn't seem to be working. So maybe there's some cracked pipes, maybe there's something. Our pressure tests don't indicate that, but it's something we're working on. The other item is that the irrigation up there is not connected to the irrigation line. It's connected to the regular water line. There was a break in the irrigation line, and we still had water up top. So who knows what lies where, but when the gym construction's done, which is the perfect time to do it, make sure that there's a 2-inch irrigation line connected to the upper field. It'll be good for everybody. We need to test the valve controller. All the valves are hooked up now, so George and I have chatted. We're going to get some time on the calendar and just go push the button and see what comes on and what doesn't. Next project is IBL. So had a wonderful meeting with superintendent, principal, vice principal, facilities director, PTO president, and AOSO regarding the field. And as George mentioned, the grass project's in place. But softball league's willing to donate's not necessarily the right word, but contribute $25,000 to a project to get those backstops in the infield fixed up. We're working with Dryco, who hadn't been responsive for a period of time because they were busy, but I just connected with David Schaefer, and we're going to talk tomorrow, and December would be a good time frame for them to take on a project like this. So on that topic, I just have to say that I really appreciate the support of the district on IBL. Cabrillo first, but IBL, because getting that field into good shape is going to be just great for the school, first and foremost, and softball league, because we need a home, given that we're going to be losing Cabrillo and such. That's all I got. Thanks.
I do have a couple questions. So I just, back to George, I guess. Could you tell us a little bit about what the tree service is and how, it says there was a quote for like $50,000. Is that all the sites?
Stand up. That's all the sites.
You want to go stand up?
Sorry, yes, that's all the sites. We have a company that we use here in Pacifica. The owner is an arborist, and he's done work with us and worked with us a lot around the district. Quite a bit at Ortega School, where we own that hillside that runs down into the back of the are those condos. We've actually had trees that have fallen during the winter and actually hit one of the condos. So we went through and we took out a number of trees in there. They're very specific about how they mark trees because trees grow in a grove for a reason, right? They protect each other in the wind. Take too many out at once and then they all fall down. A domino effect. There are some trees that were marked the last time for removal, but we also need some help with trimming up some of the trees. Like at IBL, the one I comes to mind is the, I like to call it the mushroom tree. It's so big that it actually is almost touching the sea wing. We need to have that trimmed back. They're willing to come in and help us at the same time prune some of those trees back, get them shaped, and take down some of the trees that are at the end of their life pretty much. We can see it up in the tops of the trees where they're losing their green. There are trees that are, at Sunset Ridge that along Hickey Boulevard, along that hillside that are just basically totem poles. They need to come down before they come down into the street. There's nothing at Valimar. Cabrillo, there are trees around the portables just across from the garden that need some severe help. We need to get those away from the buildings. Again, aged trees, when they get wet, the branches get heavy. We don't want them to fall into the buildings. And while there's people there or not, the cost to repair the buildings, an act of nature, right? The insurance isn't going to pay on it. It's going to be out of pocket. So in general, all of the sites working to take down the trees or work on the trees that are the old, some are heritage trees, some are not, but shaping those back. Also Ocean Shore along the back of the playground area, there are branches that stick out, areas like that. We've had trees fall there, either into the fence or from the neighbor's side into our fence, and we ended up repairing the fence ourselves. The problem with...
Yeah, I guess, mainly it's just wanting to know that it's all the sites and that we're
Yes,
keeping an eye on that.
it's all of the sites that need work on it. I think the only one that doesn't need any work at this point is Valimar. And no, there are some over at Linamar as well, along the parking lot area.
Okay. My other question is about contractors and when we were having a trouble with contractors. What's, who's following up? Say a contractor says that they're gonna be there Monday through Wednesday mowing and they don't show up. And then, who would be the person that would hire or fire that person if we needed to get to that point?
Okay, so we did have some issues. We now have a schedule with them that they're going to come out. I don't know if any, do you have that, Josie, available that you might be able to share?
I could look it up, but yeah, there was definitely an issue with them showing up, at a different time than they
Right, and they do like to come out on the weekends because there are no students. Unfortunately, they did come out the first time, which was terrible. We had facilities, stuff going out to the field, they were out there working. We've gotten that cleared up. We've made sure that these particular sites that are rented don't come on weekends. But now they're working the Mondays, I believe it's Mondays and Tuesdays or Tuesdays and Wednesdays because of the minimum days on Wednesdays and working in the afternoons. As far as letting them go, I get direction from the superintendent and the board to tell me what I need to do, and I'll make sure it happens.
Okay. All right, that's it for me today. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, George.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have a school climate update. Goal is LCAP 3, and this is Mr. Bart Taylor.
Thank you and good evening, Board of Trustees. I am happy to be providing an update on school climate this evening. wait a sec to get the slides up. Okay, so we will start with a definition of school climate, which I think is an excellent definition from the National Center for Safe and Supportive Learning Environments. I promise I won't read all my slides. I am going to read this definition just to kind of get us grounded as we talk about school climate. A positive school climate is the product of a school's attention to fostering safety, promoting a supportive academic, disciplinary, and physical environment, and encouraging and maintaining respectful, trusting, and caring relationships through the school community. Next slide. So you saw the word discipline mentioned in school climate, and I'm going to start by reviewing some of the discipline data, some of our suspension data. Right now, for the 2022-2023 school year, we have had a total of 2 suspensions. These suspensions have resulted in a total of 2 days, and comparatively, at this time last year when I gave this presentation, we had 9 suspensions that resulted in a total of 14 days. So better suspension data at this point in time. And our next chart is a 5-year comparison of suspension numbers. And just to remind you of this confusing aspect of the chart is we have total number of students suspended, and then we have total number of suspension incidents. And the reason that those are different is because the same student can get suspended for multiple incidents. So that's what accounts for that difference. And we won't walk through all of the numbers, but you can see this represented visually, and just one thing to remember is 2019-2020 school year, obviously we went out in March, so we didn't have data there for the remaining months, and then of course 2020-2021 was our COVID year, so that number is impacted there. Obviously this is encouraging that our suspensions are getting better, and if we move to the next slide, a big reason for this is the work that's being done at our school sites on implementing alternatives to suspension. Many studies have shown that suspending students is not effective in shaping, curbing unwanted behavior. Sometimes it can actually make it worse. And for that reason, we do implement alternatives to suspension at our school sites. All of our principals and assistant principals are attending a student discipline training series through San Mateo County Office of Education that is being done by Dora Dome, who is a really highly regarded attorney that works with school districts, makes many presentations, and I'm attending those as well, and it's been really great. There is absolutely, and this is in the law, an emphasis on for discipline implementing, quote, other means of correctness. It's about how can we reduce the behaviors from happening by implementing other things that can help do that. The goal is to establish a meaningful response to behavior. We can talk more about that in just a minute. We want students to understand the impact of their actions and develop ways to repair the harm that was caused by their behavior. This is absolutely a restorative approach to discipline, and it's part of alternatives to suspension, and some of these are examples from our school sites of some of these alternatives to suspension. So a restorative approach, so how can we restore whatever has been impacted, the harm that has been caused? What can we do to restore that? So we can do reflection sheets, identify the behavior, articulate what could have been done differently, why a behavior was harmful to the community, to another person, to property. Conflict resolution with the school counselor. So, getting parties together that may have had a difference with each other and having both parties come to an agreement about how we're going to move forward. That doesn't mean we have to be friends. We're not trying to force that. If two students, we're not going to force two students to try to be friends, but they're going to be at the same school. So, what are our agreements here? How are we going to make this work to move forward? That's after there's that acknowledgement and the students hear each other kind of in the moment. So neat process there. Targeted behavior contracts that we put in place to try to, again, minimize the likelihood of it happening again. Counseling, school counselors, we conference with the family, partner with families. There's a principal that shared articles and videos, certain TED Talks that principal wanted to put in place for a situation that happened with students, and then the students watched the videos, wrote about it, and as part of that process, and then community service, and if there's something tangible that can be done again, that's relates back, so it's a meaningful response. We would put those in place. Going to shift now to talk about our mental health supports in the district, and we are certainly seeing an uptick in students experiencing difficulties in this area. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have in place, our personnel that we have in place, and what we do to respond to this need. You've seen this triangle before in different presentations, not just mine. I think all of us cabinet members like to put in the triangle because it's a nice way to conceptualize how services are delivered to students. And again, tiered systems of support, and we're talking about mental health response here. So tier 1 is a universal support. All students at the school should avail themselves for this. Tier 2 is a more targeted set of support, so it's fewer students that would get that because it's more intense support. And then our tier 3 is our most intensive sets of supports, which we'll talk about. So we can keep going here. So with tier 1, again, this is provided by all staff at the school. A lot of times the tier 1 interventions is kind of the fabric of the school. It's the school-wide kind of systems that are in place. Sometimes it's the Cabrillo has the ORCA expectations, and that's school-wide. Principal Carry-On did a presentation on the very first day I happened to be there to see it. It was really important that she shared those expectations with her school. And then there's visuals up around the school, ORCA expectations. So school class-wide interventions, this is about teaching positive behaviors and promoting positive social emotional development. We saw interim principal Stafford with his awesome student talking about some of the themes that happened during advisory at IBL. So that's actually the Caring School Community Social Emotional Learning curriculum that we have. And I happen to know that that's when they do those lessons. And the themes that are within Caring School Community also are promoted and kind of taught by the school counselors when they can. So I know that schools like to set up kind of a monthly theme. Sometimes that'll dovetail with what's happening in the Caring School Community curriculum, and then sort of activities that happen kind of related to that theme throughout the month. Some of the themes that we have are empathy, respect, gratitude, generosity, determination, mindfulness, and resiliency. So those are some examples of some monthly themes that the school counselors are working on at their school sites. Tier 2 interventions are generally, again, a smaller number of students that generally there's a referral system where there's concerns about students and they get referred for more intensive services. Mainly, we're talking about counseling service sessions with the school counselors at all school sites. So schools have different kind of screening teams and ways to sort of, identify students who would benefit from these supports. And then we have the school counselors providing school-based counseling. Usually it's a finite period of time, so it's a several week, series, and then we evaluate there and we see if do we need to continue, or is the student, doing better? When the school counselor kind of has that too, if there's a more intensive need and things going on with the family and resources needed, they're involved, so they can kind of connect with families and be a little bit more involved in those cases. And again, so these services are mainly provided by school counselors, some school psychologists, but mostly school counselors. And then our tier 3, mainly these are assessment driven. These are students with IEPs possibly that have mental health services within their IEPs. So, our most significant needs. We've also got, families going through really hard situations, and, they need supports, and the students really need some intensive support. It could be short because it could be situational on what's happening, but a lot of times there's crisis happening and the student gets very, very upset very quickly. So we need to sort of up the ante, maybe have that student spend a little bit more time with a school counselor. That's kind of between the tier 2, tier 3, kind of with this chart. So all schools have school counselors and school psychologists. We also have an awesome partnership with Daly City Youth Health Center this school year. We have 2 interns at Sunset Ridge School, and we have 1 intern at IDL. It's 3 days worth of service at Sunset Ridge and 1 additional day at Ingram B. Lacey. This is in addition to the school counselors. So we've kind of tiered it within there. So the interns are doing a little bit of the higher level cases, the more intensive cases at those school sites. And then we also have something that's incredible, which is a therapist named Olivia Calkins, who is from Daly City Youth Health Center, and she works with us 2 days a week. I put in lieu of not having a lead mental health counselor. So she helps with overseeing the school counselors, kind of doing some pieces of that lead mental health, helping, working with me to help support them and help support mental health in the district. That's been amazing. I really appreciate the way Daly City Youth Health Center has just jumped in, and we're really happy to be working with them this school year. So one thing I wanted to highlight that's just very important is when we respond to students who are expressing suicidal ideations, or where there may be a threat of harm to themselves or to others, and where we've learned of this, or the student has said this to somebody at school, we need to respond to those students immediately and intervene. And there's a process called suicide risk assessment and threat assessment. All school council and we are. I must say we're very proud of how we respond to these situations. All of our school counselors and school psychologists attended the training at San Mateo County Office of Ed for the protocol for these processes. So we follow those. Even those who were trained last year went back this year because little things had changed in the protocol. We do an immediate response. Most of the time when we learn of a suicidal ideation or a possible threat, we respond within 2 hours with the threat assessment process. That's excellent. I mean, we don't want that student to go home without us intervening. You know, of course, we're going to alert the parents sometimes before, during, after, but you know, it's our responsibility when we hear that to engage in this process. We have a partnership with Pacifica Police Department. It's usually Captains Clements or Captain Glasgow who join us in these processes. They've been trained through the county. They're a part of this, and they come as a support to these meetings. They're one of the members there at the table who are kind of going through the process. And the point of these processes is to determine the level of risk. What's the level of risk here? Thank goodness, most of the time the level's extremely low. Most of the time, and that's great. But we're just happy to be able to respond so quickly to these. And just to remind you, 21-22 school year, we don't have enough data this year yet, thank goodness. But 21-22, we did 31 suicide risk assessments and then 5 level 1 threat assessments. So that's very important work. So school climate, we need to hear from voices. We need to hear from students. We need to hear from families. We need to hear from staff. It's key to know how everyone is feeling about school. And the Panorama survey is an excellent tool for this, to get this input. And we last administered the survey in September. And the main areas: school climate and culture, positive relationships, and school safety. We're going to take a little look at some of the Panorama results. You can see here, family, students, and staff were surveyed. The students are grades 3 through 8, and it's all staff and all families. Keep going. Keep going. We had a, go back. We had a, I think, a great response. We had 72.2% of the students who were eligible did respond to the survey. You can see the numbers for family and staff. So these percentages are who responded, quote unquote, favorably. So these are our percentages for favorable responses. And this is like summary school safety, school climate for grades 3 through 5 and 6 through 8. That's how they break it down. And these numbers are pretty good. You know, these numbers are pretty solid overall for safety and climate. We can take a little bit more of a look at within school climate. So the 56% from the previous page. Here's an example of some of the questions that are on the survey and the percentages. And the one that would draw our attention is the fourth one down. At your school, how much does the behavior of other students hurt or help your learning? And you can see that we only had a 33% favorable number. So we want to go deeper on that. We want to find out more about this and see what we can do about it. I'm not even going to speculate because we haven't done that deep dive yet. This is the data that we have. So we share this with school counselors, principals, and see how we can follow up on these things. Areas of focus that really kind of jumped out at us of improvement are for school, the areas on the Panorama survey of school belonging and engagement. You can see these numbers are not where we want them. So these are areas to work on. Examples in these areas. And over on the left-hand side, we put in, it's hard to read from back there, but how the answers are are given and then how those qualify into the different categories. And you can see that I just wanted to say that like the middle responses, somewhat connected or, somewhat, you can see, counts as not favorable. So just something to keep in mind when we're looking at this. But you can see, questions, how connected do you feel to the adults at your school? That's low. How much do you matter to others at the school? That's low. Those are areas we would want to find out more. We'd want to find out more from students, and again, talk with the school sites about this and see what we can do. For school engagement, students not feeling overly excited to go to class, and then when you're not in school, how often do you talk about ideas from your classes? A couple of us were talking. This question, I don't know, when I was in 6th through 8th grade, sure, I talked about ideas, but I might have rated that a little bit low. But it is something to look at. It's students who are, we want to get school engagement numbers up, so students are engaged. I have a little bit more on school engagement, because we are going to focus in on this this school year. From National Center of Safe and Supportive Learning Environments, they have a really nice sort of really simple breakdown of school engagement, and students can be engaged behaviorally, emotionally, and cognitively. And then when they're engaged behaviorally, we have consistent attendance, we have assignments being completed, being prepared. Students who are emotionally engaged, they like school, they're interested in, they identify with their school site. And then cognitively, they are exerting effort in school. They're feeling good about their kind of academic self-concept. So that's it. I think when school engagement comes up, people have different ways of thinking about that. But I think if we think like in those areas are areas of possibility for students to be engaged. And attendance, and I know Trustee Villalobos asked about attendance before at a previous board meeting, and this is really, really important. Attendance is, of course, a huge predictor of good outcomes for students academically, and then school engagement directly is impacting attendance. We know students are sick, we know that happens, but we know that attendance can suffer when students are not engaged. Our attendance rate right now is 94.54. Comparatively, last year our attendance rate was for the full school year 93.17. That was impacted by COVID significantly, so we need to take that into consideration. But we want to get those attendance rates up. We want to, and this to me, it's all connected. It's connected to how students are feeling. And school engagement. So we want to make that attendance even better. As far as what we do for attendance, students who are qualifying as chronically absent, meaning they've missed 10% of their instructional days at any given time. We send letters to those families, and we notify them of the number of absences and the fact that they are chronically absent at that time. We want it to be a supportive kind of feeling, and we want to meet with those families. So we want to meet with those families at school sites. We want to put little teams together with that. This used to be at the district level. We had a team. We'll look at bringing that back too, but right now we want it to be site-based, so the school sites can meet with families and figure out what are the barriers happening right now, what can the schools do to help, what resources might the family need, how can we help with attendance. So we're gonna work on that this year. And students who continue to be chronically absent or truant, we do have to refer them to School Attendance Review Board, SARB, which is a process through the county. So again, we try to avoid that by having several notifications and meetings and really working with families on attendance. And then last but certainly not least is our inclusive practices work this year. You know that we're working with Sam Drazen and changing perspectives. We heard Nicole talk about today's presentation. It was awesome. I was there. We had classified staff very, very engaged. But we are really committed to working on inclusive practices, and it may go without saying, but an inclusive environment for all students contributes significantly to positive school climate and fosters social emotional growth among the school community. We're working with changing perspectives. We've done a management professional development before school started. There's been the professional development that Sam Drazen did on PD Day for classified staff. We have a series of more coming, next one in January, next one in March. We'll probably add certificated to those sessions. And then there's site-based work happening. So Sam has gone and he's visited every school site. He's in the process of meeting with principals about kind of next steps and picking really kind of tangible inclusion goals that we can work this school year. So, completing a goal under inclusive practices. But the schools also worked hard on developing their inclusion vision statement, developing it with their school staff, reviewing it with Sam, getting his input. So Sam always slows us down because I think I just want to put the pedal to the metal and just go. And these foundational pieces and building the belief and the common understanding is just so important to be successful with inclusive practices. So the PD is there, and then really targeted work at the school sites on what we're doing in that regard. So that is my my presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions? That was a lot of information.
It's very good.
But thank you. I'm really excited to see, how this progresses with all of the training and the planning, and it looks like a lot of thought has gone through this. My one question is with the engagement, are the principals doing anything themselves to help keep their school engaged? Are there any rallies or like a morning pep talk or, saying hello to all the kids or anything like that, just so they can connect with, one of the most important people on site?
So I think for me, the eye test is yes. Principals are out of their office, they're greeting students. That's kind of part of just setting up that positive culture and sort of that restorative environment, just the positiveness. There's also specific things that have gone on. I know Valimar just did their Unity Day, which is an amazing thing, and other schools have, kind of days like that they do. I don't have that right here handy, but yes, I think for sure they are making that effort, and I think it's also again, we're inching more and more towards normalcy, so it can feel normal again being at a school and being a principal, and but yeah, it's those things are so important. Those interactions are really important for students.
Well, I was just thinking of it when we were going through the presentation, because the school that I work at, which is a K through 5, every Wednesday morning at 8:30, I hear a great big roar from the whole school that are in the NPR with the principal. And I haven't listened to what she's saying, but whatever it is, it sounds really great, because I can hear it all the way, down the hall. And so I was just curious if there's any kind of engagement like that.
Yeah, I really appreciate on the engagement side how you acknowledge that engagement is multiple factors. Behavioral, yeah, and and I love how that connects then to the first part of the presentation around the tiers. And so firstly, I just want to commend the district and the admin team and the teachers on building up that school climate. I think some of the early metrics that you shared showcase the work in building a good school climate, and obviously some areas of opportunity going forward. But I just wanted to highlight that. I also I kind of going back to my earlier statement about my concern around the academic supports that our students need. I really love that tiered approach and how rigorous it is from a behavioral standpoint. And I wonder if there are concepts like that all teachers at all schools can get around academic intervention. You have your tier 1 where you're doing well, you're keeping up with grade level, you're starting to notice students fall behind. So what are the standards that all teachers, similar to this behavioral model, trained in so they know, okay, this student is falling behind, so I do these 3 steps or whatever, it's not a checklist of course, but how do we kind of support teachers on the academic side? Because we know academics and behavior are so tightly linked in school as well.
It's almost like tier within a tier, because I think we're talking tier 1, like instruction, but then what can we do within tier 1 for students who may be struggling before they may even have to go to tier 2? And I know that a big piece is looking at data, and Will shared what we're doing with iReady, and I think that that's a big piece. Is that as far as like specific training for teachers?
Yeah, there's strong. There's
the PD.
Yeah, there's the iReady PD that all schools just went through except for Ortega. Ortega's tomorrow, which I'll be subbing to make sure that happens. They were meeting literally in grade level groups, and they're working on differentiated instruction. So it's that piece where if you have students and how to group students within your class for specific areas, specific domains within a subject area, based off what they've read in the data. There's certain things that are pretty stronghold at the school sites now, processes. They have SST processes that help with that, that tier 2 and a student that might need some more support, and then possibly even to a tier 3 support. Those things are strongholds, but it seems to me that sites are working their bottoms off in really trying to establish that first classroom instructional piece, that because a student can't go to tier 2 if they're not identified that they need to go to tier 2. So they're doing a lot of work. The iReady is a lot of work around that piece right now. And then also a number of other different professional development opportunities that they've taken in practice. I mean, there's this TCRWP part that's coming up, and that's going to be working with a lot of the newer teachers, again, on how not only just to set up the program, but how do you identify, like, what does conferencing look like, what comes out of the conferencing with students, and there's all these details that help with that first initial teaching practice that happens at that tier 1 level, because you can't identify who goes to tier 2 if you don't look at the data closely and also have that tier 1 piece solid.
But I think what we would do, at least if this is my thought, and we would talk about how to do this with principals, is to share, to combine this, like you were just doing, is like, our engagement numbers aren't as strong. Obviously, students, if they're struggling academically, that's going to impact their engagement. So what can we do here? How can we double down for those students? Let's not send them somewhere. Let's not put them over in this group or this. What can we do right there within the classroom? So.
And I just wanted to underpin, I think the shared expectations setting helps. Like, I would be curious if teachers after this professional development feel like they know what to do when they identify a certain student as helping, and is that a common language that teachers are developing through this PD? And if there aren't, what more can we do to build that sense of consistent practice? Thank you.
I'm just wondering when we're going to have another presentation with like some results, and also if some of the numbers can be side by side so we can see the growth.
Sure. The next, I believe, we usually do in not till the spring, March, is the next school climate update, where we'll have all of those updated numbers.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up is the organizational chart, goals, operations, and this is Dr. Olson.
Okay, as we were reviewing our board policies, one of the policies I came across was that I update you on our org chart annually, and I think you hear the nuts and bolts as we go through this. Just to highlight that still unfilled is the lead mental health counselor. We had approved someone and it turned out they were not able to make it here, so that position is still posted. Not highlighted is I would like to also say that we had 2 specialized teacher positions filled this past week with people not on this org chart. Are there any questions about the org chart? There aren't significant changes. A few new people, but not new positions. We have the administrator for special programs that we haven't seen much this fall. He's acting as the interim principal at IBL. Any other questions?
I think, I don't know how this would be easy but I think for parents, if we post something like this online, well, who does what? You know, if I have some kind of challenge, you know, on my site with a teacher or a principal, who would I go to for that? Before, you know, going to the board or before going to you, who is the next person in line that I would see and talk to for that? So I like this. I just think that it needs to be more
prominent.
Huh?
Prominent, accessible.
Yes, accessible, so that parents know, you know, what the administration is doing and who to go to.
One of my October family and staff parent squares was exactly on that, is when you have a concern, and for most parents it's going to the teacher, for most teachers it's going to their principal, and then what happens when you don't get a resolution. So we will, hopefully Barbara will help me post this on the board agenda, or on the website, and we'll get that out there. Anything else on this? Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Next up is the governance calendar, and this is goal governance.
Okay,
Dr. Olson again.
So it works well when we know the timelines for things and we know what to expect. So for example, in March, we're going to revisit the school climate survey. And so if we look down under, let's see, student learning and achievement, in March, it says school climate, mental health and discipline, right down on there. So mostly I stuck to what we did last year. There were a few things this year that we pushed up closer to the deadline. So for example, the instructional materials public hearing that we had that on the last possible day. And that was just because we weren't ready to do that earlier. I prefer to do that at the front end as opposed to going up until the back end. But these are pretty standard things that we do, and we try to have this reflect any deadlines, any state deadlines, any requirements. Are there any things that you see should be added to this?
I think at the very bottom, just so we can be inclusive of all of our students, under community relations, like it says Indigenous Peoples Day, PSB presentation, Black History Month, LGBTQIA, because I think CSEA and LSEA may have made Juneteenth a holiday.
Oh yes, they sure did.
And it's rather new. I mean, the awareness level, so if we could just work towards that.
Yeah.
And that's inclusiveness, hopefully making everybody feel welcomed.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, so I think, let me, is it an action item? So approval of this would be.
Yeah. So any other questions? All right, do we have a motion to adopt the draft governance calendar for 2022-2023 school year?
A motion to approve?
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
And Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 5-0.
All right, and then the last one is approval of the 2023 board meeting calendar. This is governance and Dr. Olson again.
One of the things that's always odd to me is to start a school year and not know for sure when the board meetings are going to be. I think maybe in the future might want to consider doing it for a school year as opposed to a calendar year. This schedule fits almost exactly like we did before. Where I did make some differences is we don't have a meeting the first week in December because that's when CSBA is going to be in San Francisco. So having a November 15th meeting, and then the Thanksgiving holiday, and that following week is CSBA. And I basically started from December 13th and moved back. With just a few little wiggles. It's our board meetings are typically every 3 weeks. I did put in the placeholder for July 12th. We used it last year, not to settle negotiations, but we moved business along. It would be everybody's hope to cancel that one. May 31st to June 14th is 2 weeks. The reason that we do that is that we have to have a public hearing, and that would be on May 31st. And then we don't want to have a meeting the last week of school. We found out going to those graduations, it gets exhausting. So having one right after school gets out. And then the only other wiggle is around April 19th. So if you see in February, from February to March, while that's a month, there's a week of the vacation in there. In the April vacation, we just made it work for 2 weeks. There's a lot in April and May, and I didn't feel like we could go till the end of March and the end of April and kind of keep business going. And we will schedule any additional meetings that we need to have. We do have the work study meeting for the policy manual update on January 11th, and I don't remember where we settled in terms of the start time for that. We'll get in touch with you. And then I will also talk to you about doing some board governance with Nicole Anderson around, it's a book study around the governance core. And I told her I didn't think it seemed realistic for us to do 4 sessions in the spring. I thought we'd be pretty busy. But perhaps maybe 2 in the spring and 2 in the fall. Seems like that might be a good transition in terms of that. I think, as I said in the closed session, I am extremely proud of this board, and you have done incredible work in extremely challenging times. And I think what the public doesn't understand is how hard your jobs are if you think about the many, many things that are on our plate. And so I just want us to keep that work going and be focused on the really important work. So any concerns or questions with the board meeting calendar? So we need approval of that as well.
Do I have a motion to adopt the 2023 board meeting calendar?
I'll make a motion.
And do I have a second?
A second.
And Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
And then we have future agenda items.
So, as you know, it took me a really long time to get some of the things ready for this board meeting as they were being posted. The requirement is that it's announced that you're going to speak to that, and then everyone should have access to those materials. The board members and the public should have access to those materials at the same time. So we posted them, I sent them to you, is how that worked. So there were a couple questions that I had on this. December 7th is superintendent evaluation. That's the chunk of time that you work by yourselves. I think you'll be in the conference room. We'll put your work up on the big screen. Maybe somebody will be on a Google Doc then doing that. You can't, I wonder who that might be. You can't Google Doc separately outside of that and share that because that's considered deliberation. But so we'll set you in that room from 5 to 7. We'll include dinner in that. And I think that's a big chunk of that work. And then the other required item is the certification of the first interim. It makes sense to do a budget update, and we were going to fit in Trustee Villalobos's request for the information from the working group. So that working group is not currently a working group, but we can report out on the information that we settled on last year. And then on the 7th is the draft of the school plans for student achievement. So we are asking principals to try to get those done before the Thanksgiving break so that we can get them to you. They are simply a draft that will be shared with you, and then you'll have some time. We would ask each of you, like for example, Kai's school is Valimar, we would ask her to really read Valamar's. It's not realistic that you would read all 6 of them. We will read all 6 of them, but it's not realistic to think that you would do that. And principals will be making a presentation to you on that 7th. And then on the 14th, I think it's not realistic to turn the superintendent's evaluation over in a week, so we can do that in January. But that's our reorganization meeting, our very official reorganization meeting that has some noticing requirements. And that's where we do the election of the 2022 officers, committee assignments, and you pass a resolution that delegates your authority to me, your employee. And then we're going to try to keep the only business on that board meeting as approval of the school SIPSA plans, so that we try to keep that one a little bit light. Any things that you would like to see in November, December, January?
Just for the December 14th for the election of the 2022 officers is to maybe make something informational for the public.
Oh, yes. Okay.
To know what like the top 3 or the top 5 responsibilities are for the board.
Okay.
I'm not sure if everybody knows.
Yeah. That sounds great. And Laverne is going to be out of town because her baby is graduating from college. So, yes, Miss Needy.
So I'm going to be a little bit of a stick in the mud about this. I apologize in advance. But given some of the news that we're hearing around math, I'd love to just get some ideas and guidance from the district on what interventions are in place, what PD is happening around math support, and also honestly just ideas of what other things can we do. I know it's a short window, we just have the second half of the school year left, but are there kind of creative ways to support students who may be falling behind and struggling in math?
Sounds great. Let's think about that. December 7th or January 18th? I think, let me talk to the principals. We could either highlight some of that in the SIPSs, which I think would be a very natural place to do that. And then we're not waiting until January 18th, right?
Okay.
I think if we, I think that would make sense to do that through the SIPSs.
Yeah, usually one of the goals in each of the SIPSs is around math. So that would be a very nice place to put it.
And then Will would do additional work in terms of answering your questions. Great, thank you very much. Okay.
Anything else before we adjourn to closed session? We're not done.
So we don't actually adjourn this meeting. What we're going to do is we're going to close this meeting. Barbara and all the rest can go home. We will go back to closed session in the conference room with Carla to discuss negotiations, and then Carla and we'll all come back and we have to close the open meeting. So if you want to give me your recorder, I'm happy to do that. Okay. So we temporarily pause this meeting. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. What's that? Yeah, I usually